It's Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight we are talking about the genre of tower defense games. Oh, I didn't actually have an opening vid. I just started the show. I didn't even think of what we were going to talk about at the beginning.
Okay. So yesterday I went to a movie, and every time I've ever gone to Lincoln Center to see a movie, right? Film Lincoln, or Film Link, I guess they call it, which, just next to the Opera House and Juilliard and all that artsy area, right? You've been there to the Walter Reed Theater, right? Where you saw Satoshi Kon there. I saw so many things.
I've been there a number of times.
Yeah. Never have I been to any of their other theaters other than the Walter Reed Theater. Never. It's always been in that theater every time.
I definitely have.
I went to a movie there like some week, whatever ago, right? And at first it was like that movie was scheduled to be in a different theater. And I was like, whoa, it's not. And then at the that day they emailed me. They're like, we've moved this theater. This showing was so popular, we're moving it to the larger Walter Reed Theater. And I'm like, okay, well, I know where I'm going. The movie I saw yesterday was in the non-Walter Reed Theater. I expected it to be like tiny. It wasn't. I mean, the Walter Reed isn't even that big, but it wasn't that tiny. It was actually newer and fancier, even though the screen was smaller. And also, more people came to see than I expected. Also, it was super cold in there. Oh my God, it was the coldest. Like, movie theaters for a long time, the summer blockbuster originated in part because in the summer, people didn't have air conditioners, and movie theaters would air condition themselves, and people would go to movies, and so you'd put out big movies in the summer, and that was the thing. And it's like I was going to a movie in the summer in the afternoon, like 12:30 on a Monday. And there were people in there, and it was so cold. I should have brought a coat with me, even though it was like 80-something degrees outside.
It's especially now as it is hotter for longer periods of time in New York City. I have found that indoor spaces are colder than they have ever been in my experience.
It's like, yes, you have to air condition, but it's like you don't got to over air condition. You can have a thermostat. Use it. Set it to 76 or 78. Which is
I do like
don't
even if I'm
it to 60.
Even if I'm wearing like shorts and a Hawaiian shirt and it's the middle of summer, if I'm going to a theater, I bring a hoodie around my waist, and the times I've forgotten to do that, I've regretted it.
Yeah. So that was.
Yeah, so there is a bunch of news I guess we can start with because it is breaking as of a little while ago, but Ozzy Osbourne came in on the over of every expectation of how long he would live, and I gotta say,
yeah, for someone to live the lifestyle that we knew he lived with all the drugs and the rock and rolling and such, to live 78, it's like
76.
Is it 76? Okay, even so, 76. It's like, listen, you usually think 80, 90. It's like, oh, you're doing good, but like, listen, that lifestyle plus 76. It's like, wow,
yeah, because there's a bunch of gates you get through. Like in your 50s, if you're really unlucky, there's things that get you. And when you're around 65, there's another gate. When you hit 80ish, there's another gate, and then after that, it's just every day you're making a Constitution check. Ozzy Osbourne had like a -10 to that Constitution check. His saving throws, he was rolling all 20s.
Yeah, but the man, was far from a perfect individual. His failings are well documented. Right? But I want to say the number one, you talk about like, there are a lot of famous people out there, but not a lot of famous people become like sort of, like legendary characters in like, history and society. And Ozzy is one of those people, right? He's not just a famous person, right? Also, I think he doesn't get enough credit for his musical talents and singing, right? Granted, he got old, but at the same time, it's like no one sounds like that. I really like, in general, also just people there's a lot of people who are like amazing at singing, but when they sing, it's like they sort of sound like everyone else singing,
like
right?
Perfect studio, like
right. For example, right? No disrespect to John Brancy, right? The Grammy Award-winning baritone, but it's like if you found another excellent baritone singer, it's like not much different from John Brancy, right?
Yep.
I probably could tell just because I've heard John Brancy so much sing national anthem, but you know, he doesn't have like a uniqueness that really stands out. Whereas Ozzy, it's like you one note from Ozzy, you know who that is. You just know immediately who it is, and it sounds good. It's pleasing to the ear, even though it is unique and different. And there are certain singers like that across all genres and techniques, and I prefer them. You know, it's more interesting for your ear to hear something novel.
Oh, and what I always appreciated about Ozzy in particular was he seemed very like deeply self-aware of the role he played in culture and society, and he didn't.
Exact words I would use.
He didn't shy away from it. He looked in the mirror, but he didn't necessarily change things he could have changed, but he was aware of them, and he lived his life in that manner, and that is rare.
Yep, he said, I am the Ozman, and that's what I'll be. I'm going all in on that, and he was all in on that until the end. And then I also just want to say there was a story. One time we were in college, and we were, you know, immature college dudes, and for whatever reason we went to the theater to see Little Nicky.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and we went to see this movie. No one else was in the theater but us. It was just us, me, Rim. Who else went? Pete.
Like I have the early front row crew. It was decent. There was like, I feel like there were like 7 or 8 of us.
It was at least 1 or 2 cars.
It was 2 cars. It was always 2 cars. That era.
It was 1 or 2 cars of college dudes went, and we're the only people, literally the only people in the showing of Little Nicky. While it was a brand new movie, it's not a good movie. It's awful. But the context in which we saw the movie, right, was exactly right. It was the only way that movie could shine. Right. It was in that. It's like if I saw that movie in any other context, I would have just said this is garbage, because it is. But because of the context of college dudes with nothing to do at night in an empty theater in a silly, immature mood and time period of our lives, the movie, I'm not going to say it hit, but it functioned, right, in that context. And of the whole movie, the part that functioned the most, in fact, the only part of that movie I actually remember, because it was the part, right, was Ozzy's like 30-second, like 1 minute. I found it on YouTube. It's like not even a minute long of him appearing in that movie. And I remember when he appeared in the movie, all of us were yelling and cheering.
Yep.
Right? I remember that distinctly.
I only remember one other thing from that movie.
I remember 0 other things.
I remember a pineapple thing related to Adolf Hitler. That's it. So if you've never seen that movie, that gives you some context into what that movie was about.
You know, I saw the movie, and I don't remember that. But
unlike the second Matrix movie, which you thought I saw, I've still never seen that movie.
Yeah, well, you're not missing that much, but you know, it's better than Little Nicky.
I mean, that bar pretty low. But yeah,
the point is, Ozzy was the perfect person to exist in that exact space, and there isn't another person, right? It's like even the other, you know, metal god type people are not filling that exact role. Right? A unique human being.
You know, there's something
worthy
that happens.
Of note and commendation.
You're not a Star Trek person. But there is a famous scene in Star Trek DS9 where and it's relevant to this.
Does Ozzy appear in Star Trek?
No, but there's a race of aliens that are clones. Like when one dies, the civilization just like makes another one, paranoia style. No. And they've basically gotten these lizard people to work with them. And the lizard people do not have clones. They're just regular people.
So they're lizard people.
So they have captured a Klingon, Worf. You know Worf. You've probably heard of Worf. He's the Klingon.
The main Klingon guy.
Yeah, the main Klingon guy you'll think of unless you've seen more than a tiny amount of Star Trek.
Well, the second one I think of is Eyeball Guy.
Yeah, Gowron.
Yeah.
You now know the names of...
Worf is I know, you know, I don't know much Star Trek, but I'm a nerd. I can't avoid knowing some Star Trek, right? Worf is the Klingon who's like, you know, reasonable and normal and not a crazy... Eyeball Guy.
Yep. So Wei Yun, the guy who can be cloned, is there.
Don't know that guy.
Yeah, he's given Worf a hard time because he has arrested Worf, and suddenly Worf like lashes out and just breaks his neck and kills him instantly. And
the clone comes.
Well, no, the clone comes later. Like it takes him a while to make a new clone. So the lizard guy, his guards are about to kill Worf, and the lizard guy is like, "No, don't kill him." And then he looks down at the dead Wei Yun and he just starts laughing hysterically because he hates that guy. And he's just like, they're just going to clone him. You should have killed me. There's only one Damar.
Okay.
Just there's only one Ozzy.
Well, now there's 0.
Yep. R.I.P. 76 is a good number to hit.
He escaped for someone who was so associated with, truthfully or not, right? But at least satanic hell-like imagery.
Yep.
He has escaped the hell world before it gets more hellish.
Yep. So in a little news, we see this everywhere, but it has happened the fastest and the hardest, not on Steam yet, and not even in the Nintendo Store, which is starting to have this problem, but it's in the PlayStation 5 Store. The PlayStation 5 Store is flooded with fake AI slop games to a degree that seems
they're not doing as much curation as of what goes in their store.
Yep. And this is a problem that I think the games industry, the video game industry, is not really...
We know that Steam does some amount, Apple does a lot, and Nintendo presumably also does some amount.
Nintendo doesn't do much, but Nintendo isn't...
They do... Nintendo's doing less than they used to. They used to care what your game was. Now they just care like that your game functions and isn't like gonna do evil shit.
But this problem was already largely unsolvable, or at least a very difficult problem to solve before AI slop, because lots and lots and lots of shovelware garbage games get made that are just like attempts to go viral. They have low budget, like people crank them out like crazy. And on one hand, you want platforms like Steam to like let every game in. So like a small team, one dude, one person could make a game. But on the other hand, if it's just full of garbage, no one's ever going to find that one good game. No one's ever going to browse. There's no discoverability. And like this is a tension that has existed for as long as there have been online games.
Yeah, well, for example, I think actually, Steam does this by using data. Right, is they look at what's selling, what's wish listed, what's right, and they use that to curate what's on their main pages and what's shown to you, so you don't end up seeing the slop even if it's there. As long as you don't just like click on, if you like click on certain things, you can see it if you want to. Like Steam, show me every game in this category by order of release date, filter by nothing. It's like, well, you're gonna see slop, right? But if you say Steam, what platformer like should I play right now? They're like, you will not see any slop. You will see reasonable platformers, right?
Yep.
And so Nintendo does it even harder. Or if you go to the Nintendo and the eShop, if you go to like new releases, they'll show you new releases in chronological order, and there's a lot of garbage. But the main one that you really want to go to is the one that says featured, and basically that's a manually curated page that shows games made by Nintendo, major publishers, and indies that have like succeeded already, like your Balatros and your Vampire, whatever, right? And those, and that's all you would see on that featured page. And unless you are like a super sicko, there's no way that you've played all of those featured games. So there's really no reason to there's very little reason to dig past the featured games if you've played all of them, and they come out often enough that it's
now
like,
a lot of small game makers will get really mad at that kind of sentiment, like, well, you're not going to try, how's a small game going to survive, like how are we going to, and the answer honestly is 99.9% of all games never make any money. Like, what do you can, making a game is fine, but expecting that a game will make money, the odds are against you.
Buying lottery tickets and then getting mad that you bought a losing ticket. It's like,
yep.
Come on, bro.
But this problem is about to like hit an order of magnitude in that human curation is going to be so important, but AI slop is filling systems to the point that you need automated filters, even if you're doing heavy, expensive human curation, to even have humans able to deal with the torrent and make a recommendation. And this is just only going to get worse. So I think what this means is if you go back to...
what you have to do is you have to be more like the Nintendo one, where you block literally everything unless it's from a trusted source, right? Or the Steam one, where it's based on data. So at least the Steam one, not as hard as the Nintendo one, but if some AI slop game becomes popular and successful, like people are actually putting hours into it and playing it, then it's like, okay, well, it's AI slop, it might get copyright violation or or some other reason, but it's like people are playing this game for hours. It's like, well, why shouldn't we? Even though they used, various, some LLM to generate part of the game, why shouldn't it be on the homepage? I guess, right?
Yeah, but I'm definitely this is a tiny Butlerian jihad of I'm at the point where I don't want any algorithms recommending anything to me ever. I only want to find things on my own or from humans who I know the name or at least the handle of, and I am seeking their opinions out intentionally, directly, and it's pull, not push. And a problem for the games industry is that very few games can make money in that kind of environment, but I don't see any other way around it. There's just too much being made, and it's only going to get worse, and it's getting worse exponentially. So ultimately, it seems like Yahoo was right. Human curation's the only way to go.
It's like there's a field of just grass just for free, and it's like I'm making more grass. I'm making sod, and no one's buying it. It's like, Anyway.
Yep.
So in also video game store related news, it has been true for quite a long time that there is an effective censorship regime in all commerce in, countries that have credit cards, because the credit card payment processors, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, etc., right, will not allow merchants to accept their forms of payment if those merchants are selling porn, gambling, and some other vice, right? So you can make a porn shop in the U.S., obviously. It's the First Amendment is there. Nothing, the government won't come after you, right? Mostly, depending, right? No child porn, et cetera, right? Age laws and things like that. But the porn itself is that's legal. It's not against the law. But if you say, hey, people want to buy porn in my porn shop, they need to pay me money, and they come in and they want to swipe their Visa, it's like, no, you can't. You have to use cash or some other, or even, frankly, this would have been a legitimate use of cryptocurrency if it hadn't been, crime instead. The one legitimate use right, that they could have had, they botched it. And the reason for this is not necessarily because the people who run Visa, MasterCard are like anti-porn or anti-gambling. It's like they stand to make, so if they could, right? If you could go to a casino, you can't go to a casino and use a credit card to get chips. It'll be a cash advance if you do that, right? Or use your debit card to get cash and then you buy chips.
Yep.
They would make so much money if people could gamble with credit card debt. It's like, right? That would be crazy good for them. The reason they don't let people do that is because for those particular merchants, there is a fuck ton of fraud, right? People who are gambling, it's like, if they can get like a fake credit card to get chips and then gamble and win real money, it's like, holy shit. And so people who fraud credit cards are likely to try to use them for gambling. They're not likely to try to use them to buy groceries at the grocery store.
And there is a real problem with perfectly fine pornography where there is a high rate of people disputing charges for a lot of reasons.
Right. For example, somebody might not want someone who can see their credit card statement to know that they purchased porn, so they might get some other, right, means of paying.
Some people
for the
regret it and have a weird shame spiral, and then they try to purge the history of what happened in a bigger way.
Or someone may be getting investigated and they're worried about a blackmail, or a person could be LGBTQ plus but hiding it from others, or who knows what, right? And so people who, or for example, children who want to see porn that costs money but don't have a credit card.
They ask ChatGPT for a fake credit card number that ends up being someone else's credit card number, and it just works.
And so credit card payment processors stand to make a lot of money if people could buy porn with credit cards, but they don't allow it because there is enough fraud to cancel out their earnings. That's how much fraud there is.
Now, there is a secondary reason, and it mostly is due to the way American, in particular, politics have gone, in that they are also honestly, to be really blunt, afraid of the Republican Party and afraid of boycotts from conservatives who are extremely activist. We've seen this in other sectors.
Yeah,
Look at the
as
Parents
time has
Television
gone
Council.
on, it's really strange how like which party, right? Like this isn't necessarily like a left or right issue. It's like over time, like different parties between the Democrats and Republicans have been like for or like, you know, Hillary Clinton was the one who was like, get those violent video games out of here.
The Clipper
right?
chip.
And now it's like Trump is like a pornographer who's grabbing him by the pussy, the president.
But yet his party is trying to ban pornography.
Right. It's, you know, it's you can't, as much as the Democrats are good and the Republicans are evil, obviously, right? You can't pin this one on one party or the other, right?
Well, except in the current climate, there is a big anti-pornography push from the Republican Party that is basically the first step.
The age verification laws that are happening right now are Republican.
And they are intentionally a first step toward banning basically all LGBT content on the internet.
Yes,
that's their goal. That's their direct stated goal.
Yeah. And so the news by Steam, right, is unique, is because on Steam, you can buy porn games. Right? Yeah. They allowed it at some point. And this is unique because most businesses that are either porn purveyors who only sell porn or, you know, I mean, I guess there's some videos on like, you know, Pornhub that aren't porn. Like there was some guy doing math videos on there or something. But the point is you're either a porn shop or you're a non-porn shop. Steam is unique, selling legitimate video games from major publishers and porn. There's not a lot of businesses out there doing that.
There's another one. You know what the other one is? Patreon.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Patreon has non-pornography from big
not
companies.
So openly as Steam.
Oh, yeah. Definitely not so openly.
There it is. Right. You know, even if you go to like a video store or a bookstore, it's like, yeah, the porn's in a different section, right? And there would be separate, a lot in the United States, especially, porn would be in its own video store when that was a thing.
Yep.
Anyway, so in having both, what happened was the credit card payment processors went to Steam once they realized what was going on. It took them a while. And we're like, hey, you got porn on here. And they're like, yeah. And they're like, listen, if you don't get rid of the porn, then we're just going to not let you accept Visa, MasterCard, Discover. It's right. Well, then how are people going to buy anything?
Obviously, we shouldn't let a very small number of payment processors that are central to the economy be able to govern free speech. Like, that's an obvious.
Right. And so the second problem, this became a whole drama because somebody did an expose, which is, and they found out that, like, hey, how does MasterCard, Visa, like, how did they find out about this? How do they know what's porn, what's not porn, right, etc.? There's apparently some really conservative anti-LGBTQ, I forget the name of the group.
It's the Parents Television Council all over again. That Parents Television Council.
There's a group, right, they outsource those, you know, MasterCard, Visa, they're not in the business of determining what is and what isn't porn. They're not doing that themselves, right? That is basically being like outsourced to these other groups, which are not great. And the thing is, you're like, well, what if we made like, you know, a leftist group that was correctly identifying what's acceptable porn and not? And it's like, they would just say yes to everything. That wouldn't help them fight the fraud, right?
Yep.
So, not absolutely everything, but most
well, also
things.
there were attempts in the era of the Parents Television Council. I bring it up because that was a tiny organization. I want to say it had like less than 100 members, and all it did was
lots and lots of. They would bury people in letters.
Yep. But if you tried to, so there were many
when letter writing mattered.
There were many left wing and like Discordian style groups that made parallel organizations that sent letters like complaining about Christian television. And they just got ignored because those tactics really only work for the conservative side of things. They don't work for any other side.
Yep. Anyway, so what happened, there's a whole drama because somebody wrote the expose about this group on like Vice. And then Vice like took it down. And then the people quit over this, which makes sense. They resigned, and then the story went up on other places, and it's like now it's a whole thing. It's like they're trying to, because now people are getting like, you know, Streisand effect. Like, was there a cover up? What the hell is this? That the story was taken down. They could just let the story up. People would have been like, yeah, that's how it works. But now it's blowing up, and a lot of people never realized this before, that you can't use credit cards for certain things because of this sort of non-governmental censorship regime.
Yep.
And now people are seeing what the reality is that we've known about for so long, thanks to the unique case of Steam having porn and non-porn mixed and in the same store. And I wonder that, we just talked about Nintendo eShop. It's like Nintendo eShop doesn't have the porn that Steam has. On Steam, you can see genitals, right? Digital genitals, video genitals, right? You can see porn, right? But Nintendo allows really, really naughty stuff as long as you don't see the business, right? There's a lot of Japanese schoolgirls with jigglies on there. If you search for them and you don't have parental controls, they're there. So I wonder, if anything will happen to Nintendo, right?
Yeah, especially because all of these movements are emboldened by the current, fascist regime in the United States. This problem. Also, this is partly, they're basically going after all the places culture exists. Steam is something they can't control.
Mm-hmm.
So
the final thing would be my suggestion, which is sort of just obvious.
Make the porn payment processor, the PPP.
Well, no, that you won't make money because of the fraud. There's no point. What Steam should do is what they should have done to begin with is they should just make a separate Steam and a separate porn Steam, right? And the separate porn Steam you have to pay using other methods that porn sites accept, and you can't use credit cards. And then the regular Steam uses the credit cards. So that's what everyone else does. That's the way around.
But that is a retreat that seeds the ground permanently to the right-wing nut jobs.
But it's the known solution to this problem, and it's what a lot of businesses already did even without this regime, right? That's just the way it is, and it keeps the stuff available to people, right? Now, of course, the thing you really got to target, right, is the stuff that would be classified as having to go on the porn Steam that shouldn't, like a game that has LGBTQ plus themes but no genitals and no explicit acts. It's and someone's gonna try to push that over to the porn Steam, and this is one case
where the slippery slope is by default a logical fallacy because it is not not all slippery slopes are slopes, nor are they slippery. But in this case, this is an obvious deep slippery slope with a track record.
Slippery slope. That's where we are on the slope. However slippery is, conservatives are trying to push gay things on as porn and get them out of the.
I mean, I'm not going to mince words. This slope is steep and deep and leads to concentration camps.
It's not right. That concentration camps is they're already some of those.
They're
small, we have some small ones starting, but in terms of the porn concept, right? It's not a matter of slippery slope. Where we are at is there are people who are trying to get things that aren't porn that they just don't like classified as porn using a non-governmental censorship regime, which is within the law. So you had to fight it by some other means.
It's interesting because one of those books I read on modernity while Emily and I were researching that panel.
Modernity answered everything.
No, it had a psychological point with some papers to back it up, and its argument was around the idea that some people, for whatever reason, it doesn't get into why they're that way, but they are demonstrably that way, and you can track this and study this and interrogate it. The thing that bothers them and makes them act out more than anything else is becoming aware that other people live their lives differently from how they live their own lives. And that knowledge is the fundamental thing they cannot abide. The fact that someone else lives a way or enjoys a thing that they do not, they cannot deal with that, and they will lash out to destroy that thing or those people reliably.
Right. It's they're a mountain person, and they live the mountain way, and they only know mountain people, and then one day they find out beach people exist.
Yep, they don't even meet a beach person. They just find out beaches exist.
Yeah, it's wait, there's people who hate mountains and cold and the woods, and they like sand and water, and what's the swimming I hear about? And it just makes it's people are living a different way, and they're just angry, and they want those people to be destroyed.
Yep.
I guess, there could be, who knows why that is, right? Some deep psychological nonsense.
There are a lot of theories that I'm not going to get into because I don't think you want to hear 20 minutes of modernity nonsense, but
no.
because I'm continuing to read essays and papers on this. One last little thing. Deltarune chapters 3 and 4 came out.
How many chapters is this thing going to have?
So it's going to keep going. So after chapter 4 ends, which if you buy it now, so chapters 1 and 2, part of why I'm talking about it is if you're not aware, Toby Fox released Deltarune in a really interesting way. It's on Steam, it's on Switch, it's on PlayStations, but chapters 1 and 2 are just free. And it's a whole ass game. You could play chapters 1 and 2 to the end, and you'll have a really good experience. But then you can buy chapters 1 through 4. So if you pay money, you get all 4 chapters. If you happened to play...
You're actually just buying chapters 3 and 4 because 1 and 2 are free.
Yes, but regardless of how you acquire it, if you get the paid version and you have played the first 2 chapters, you can import your save file because the game is sort of a contiguous story. Your save file matters. So chapters 1 through 4 are out, but there was going to be a chapter 5, which is not included in this, and he announced chapter 5 is coming, and if you bought 1 through 4, you'll just get 5 probably in 2026 sometime because they're still working on it.
So he's basically making his game piece by piece, and rather than making everyone wait until it's all done, he's just releasing it in pieces.
Yep.
One at a time.
But not doing the model of charging people for every release that comes out.
Right. It's, you could... It's basically like you're buying the Game of the Year edition to begin with, right? Or another way of saying it, and I think is like, yes, it's one game, really. It doesn't really have chapters, right?
Yep.
And it costs X dollars, but by releasing it piece by piece, rather than have like this one big boom at the start and then a long tail, you're giving yourself, right, like these renewed attention on this, right? And at each time you come out with a new piece, new people will come in and buy it.
Yep. And those new people, and what I've noticed is now that it came out again, suddenly in all of my social feeds and YouTube and everywhere, I see a pony-like explosion of people reacting to the game, which causes more people to play it. And this pattern is working very well, and I don't think it will work for a lot of games. Part of why it works for this game is that the chapters actually do matter in that they are each a game that has a start and a finish, and only a very small number of things really carry over between the chapters, and you can kind of start anywhere. But it looks like there's going to be a chapter 6 and 7 now as well. It's just going to keep going.
Yeah, just keep going. Why not?
Yeah. And I will say...
Actually, you know what this reminds me of? Is in K-pop, right? I've never done this because I don't know why you would do it unless you're a crazy fan who's obsessed. You can join like the official fan clubs, right? And you get, I don't know what the hell you get, but I guess if you're not in Korea, I don't know why you do it. But anyway, they have recruitment cycles that are like they open and close. And so it's like a new group appears. It's like initial recruitment for the fan club, join, pay money, become a fan club member. And then they close it. And it's like, all right, this is the fan club. And then later they'll be like, okay, second recruitment. And it's like, it's like, here's another chance to join the fan club that some people are already in. Right. And it's just you're creating times to do your marketing and your sales.
But it also means there's a time where new people join the community, but the old people know, the people who are already there know, hey, a bunch of new people are coming in. And I think that leads to the curation of the communities. Like
it's like the same thing. It's the same fan club, right? You're just sort of at constantly sort of renewing it with you're choosing your moments to do your marketing and your push rather than having it just always be available so it's never noteworthy or, anyway.
Yeah, so I'll do a full review of Deltarune 1 through 4 later. I'm not going to do a whole geek bite on it now.
Isn't the whole like an Undertale sequel or not?
In the same way,
made by the same guy.
Think of it more like Tezuka. There are similarly named and similar looking characters, but it is a completely different story.
Okay, so it's not. I was going to say, why didn't he just make Undertale?
That's why it's just an anagram of the name Undertale, because it is a remake. It is a different game. But what I will say is, if any of you out there, I liked Undertale a lot, but I know some people bounce off of it. Deltarune is different. Deltarune is, from a play perspective, materially better. It is a very good game that I have a lot to say about, and it is doing some things I have not seen other games do. It is,
people generally get better at making games when they can do it all day long and don't have to do another job.
Yep. I am impressed.
It's their second go, or third go, or fourth go.
Undertale, I feel, is almost like a prototype of what this game, like, it's a prototype for this. This is what he wanted Undertale to be. All right. Anyway, let me click on the thing. 36. Drag my little marker. Okay. But anyway, things of the day. I just got a real short one. I don't know if it was this ad that I saw or a similar one, because I cannot remember. There's no way for me to figure that out in my brain. But I definitely, in the mid-1980s, like mid to late 1980s, saw an ad like this, and it is what clued my little kid brain into the idea that Dungeons and Dragons existed and made me obsessed. But it is interesting looking at this again, like from the modern day, because I haven't thought about this in a long time, but how TSR, like D&D, was marketed at the time is pretty interesting, considering how video game ads were at the time, how other ads were at the time, how Dungeons and Dragons is talked about today. There would be a lot to unpack here that we might want to talk about in the future, but I know they lead with Dungeons and Dragons, but they actually spend a lot more time talking about Marvel superhero role-playing and Indiana Jones role-playing.
Most TSR ads I've seen in my life are in Marvel comic books.
Yep.
So
what do you got?
I thought that I had used this as a thing of the day a long time ago, but I guess not. Who knows? But anyway, I searched, I couldn't find it. There's a website, if you don't know about it, because I guess the reason I was reminded, because I met someone on the internet who didn't know about it already. There's a website, pagat.com. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but it's PAGAT.com. And it's a database of card games for 2 or more players and their rules thereof. A huge data. It's like, forget Board Game Geek, right? Because Board Game Geek only concerns themselves with published games, the same way that certain book websites only concern themselves with books that have an ISBN. Pagat.com is here's the rules for some game that someone plays in this country where you need 2 decks of cards, right? And 3 people and a D6, whatever, right? Yep. And it's just it's just so many rules for poker variants, games but also games you don't know. You want to know how to play German whist? You want to know how to play anything. All the rules are just on this website because they're just
I like how the website
any intellectual property law whatsoever. So
I like how it has a long section on what we're trying to do with this website. I want to read a little bit from it because this is really good. The aim is to collect and disseminate knowledge of traditional multiplayer card games from all parts of the world and to encourage people to play a wide range of card games. I would stand by that as a noble pursuit.
Yeah, but it's this is a 90s, 2000s style website.
Yeah, you know what? Good website. I wish more websites were like this. It is densely packed with useful, hyperlinked information. And you know what I don't see? Granted, I have ad blocker, but I don't see any ads.
Yeah, it's been around a long time. It shows no signs of going anywhere, and it's super valuable website. There you go.
In the meta moment, GeekNights will be live at PAX West 2025 with a new talk, Mastering Game Mechanics, Auctions, and Bidding on Monday. Also, sometime tonight, I'm going to drop one of the solo talks I gave at Zenkaikon 2025. Every game is the same game. I did an updated version where I got rid of the food metaphors and replaced them with physics metaphors, and I went deeper. So I got the full video up, so I'm going to drop it on YouTube sometime tonight. And of course, one of the talks we gave at PAX East, The Everlasting Game, is also, as of a week ago, online with slides, everything. You can watch it. It's all there. The book club book is The Silent Patient. I am about a third of the way through, so I know you already read it. It's a pretty quick read.
If you want to know what happens if somebody who is Greek and who knows about mythology and studied psychotherapy and studied literature, and they decide to write a mystery novel, this is what happens.
The immediate instinct guess, and I had this guess in the 3rd chapter, so it's not a spoiler to say what I guessed, especially because I haven't read like all the book yet. But the guy who runs the special asylum, he reeks of the one who's in on it. Yeah,
Diomedes?
that motherfucker.
I'll tell you this. I thought the same thing.
Yeah,
I thought the same thing. That was my number one suspect.
That's like when you're playing D&D and you meet a new NPC and you're like, that's obviously the square boss. That guy's going to come back.
When I was a third of the way through, the guy with the Greek name, Diomedes, in the book about a Greek tragedy metaphor for a murder mystery, was at when I was where you were at. That was my number one suspect.
I'm sitting there like Columbo, like, just one more thing.
The guy who has absolutely no, because that's how every murder mystery goes. We'll talk about in the book club, but they give you a cast of characters and they give everyone a motive, and you think you see a guy without a motive who has a name, it's like monkey pointing finger.
You'll probably never play it, but because it's not even that long a game. But one thing I'll point out. Forget all the communism stuff I talk about with Disco Elysium. Fundamentally, Disco Elysium is a murder mystery because you're a cop, there was a murder, and for everything else, the game is solve the murder. And it does the murder mystery thing to a, like, stupendous degree. Because you hit a point where you're like, all right, I've followed every lead. There is nothing. I have nothing to go on. There is no one I could even remotely suspect who could have possibly committed this murder. So what the fuck happened? And the moment you think that when you're playing this game, like 10, 11 hours in, something happens and you're like, oh, and then the game goes off in this really interesting direction. So yeah, let's get into it. This game came out in 2007 and we played it a lot. And
that seems late.
It does seem late, earlier. But we are older, and my entire adolescence blurs together into one long, like, Counter-Strike playing existence. But desktop tower defense, when Scott suggested, have we done a show on tower defense? Desktop tower defense was the immediate first game that popped into my head because it was, I think, the first tower defense game I played that was solely, primarily, and explicitly a tower defense game that I remember.
Yep. So there are other games that have some resemblance to the tower defense genre. For example, I saw online some mentions of Rampart, where it's like, we love Rampart, but not really. Let's Donkey Kong 3 is arguably a tower defense by that logic. Greenhouse on the 1982 Nintendo handheld. Yeah. But yeah, so a tower defense game, they first appeared, in my opinion, because I was there, I'm playing them.
I was there when the old magic was written.
That's right. I was there. And people made up Flash games that had this tower defense model because basically there were existing Flash games. Like, for example, there was I think there was one that was like a penguin slingshot one where it's like, okay, you would slingshot the penguin, then you would get money and you'd upgrade the slingshot, and then you could slingshot the penguin further and better and higher, and then you would use money to upgrade. And that was the gameplay loop of do a thing, get money, do the thing better, and do it until you do it well enough that you win and you there's nothing else to do in the game. And
so unrelatedly, there were games that had levels or stages or modes, not necessarily the main focus of the game, where instead of doing whatever you normally do in the game, you gotta like defend a thing from waves of enemies for a little while.
That's true. Yeah.
And that appeared in the middle of a lot of other games.
There are like some FPSs like that, very newer than tower defense, obviously, but some of the newer Doom games will like lock you in a room, and it's like you have to defeat all the demons in the room. And they keep coming at you, and after you defeat them, the doors open.
Yep.
Right. So waves of enemies. Even Space Invaders is waves of enemies. Right. It's like one of the first games ever.
Yeah. Wikipedia notes the tower defense minigame in Final Fantasy VI, which was 1994.
Sure. But yeah, so a tower defense game fundamentally is the combination of those two ideas, is that you have a gameplay loop of having resources, spending them to improve your abilities, your defense, you're building towers, right, on this map that increase your defenses, that are automated mostly, and then waves of enemies come, and if your defenses are strong enough to hold, you then collect more money, which you can use to upgrade your defenses, and a stronger wave of enemy comes, which you must hold against. And as long as you can spend your resources wisely enough that your defenses are effective enough that you keep over the bar of the next wave of enemies, then you continue until you reach the top level and then you win. And that's the gameplay. That's what makes a tower defense game a tower defense game, is get resources, spend them in an efficient enough manner to clear the bar, and repeat that until you achieve the last level, right? Where there's nothing else to do.
Now, the genre, like, it really seems like it went from nothing to a million around 2007, 2008. And as we note, and Wikipedia also points out, that corresponds to the explosion of Flash games. People started making these games partly because they're pretty easy to make. They're hard to make good, but they're easy to make.
Yeah, and what happened over time is we got into the mobile game. 2007 is also when the iPhone appeared, right? And Flash started to die, and mobile games started to take over. But they reached a state where certain people started to really make really polished tower defense games. And I'd say the two most polished tower defense games, which both of them I've played a lot of, is Bloons Tower Defense, Bloons, which is the one with the monkeys who pop balloons by throwing darts at them. And that one's already, I think, at like 6 or 7, I think. I don't even, versions. And the other one is Kingdom Rush, which has a brand new one that just came out, which is Kingdom Rush Alliance. And that one is just sort of mostly a fantasy theme, but they've also, the same company has made some other games with the same engine and other themes. They have like a post-apocalypse Mad Max style one I forget the name of. But they're all just tower defenses, right? They're basically the same, and they're really polished and quite fancy and quite complex and challenging, right? It's like they've taken this formula and over the years, almost 20 years, have really honed it and polished it to make it razor sharp, because they haven't had to put their efforts into like graphical fidelity or story or any of those other, right? It's like they do a little bit of that, but mostly they have just polished the gameplay of this loop to a razor sharp point.
Because that loop is kind of hard to polish, because this is the kind of game that it's very easy for there to be degenerate strategies, or it's very easy for there to be glitches that like make the game either impossible or trivial. These games could be like the arcade games. You can't lose that and they just go forever because they don't get hard enough. They could be, they just get impossible. And I think it is kind of amazing how well tuned even desktop tower defense was at the time. I feel like a lot of games that came after it were worse before they got better.
Right. If you make a tower that's like a little bit too powerful, everyone could just build that tower, ignore all your other towers, and then they withstand any number of enemies. They don't even need to spend all the resources you gave them, and they just win, and it's a boring game that no one wants to play.
Because every tower has to be on the Pareto frontier, or there's no reason to use them, and that's why
situationally necessary.
In which case, they are still on the Pareto frontier.
Exactly. Or the game doesn't give you enough resources or makes the wave of enemies too difficult, so that no matter how you spend the resources, no matter what towers you build, this wave of enemies cannot be stopped. It's too strong. Right?
Now, I think that's it's interesting that you led with the upgrade loop before we talked about the rest of tower defense, because I think
that addicting upgrade loop is, it's not gambling because there's no like luck to it. Right, but it's like it's almost like a slot machine where you just keep winning. It's like leveling up in an RPG, right? Where you beat the enemies, you get experience. You beat the enemies, you get experience, and you're just constantly being rewarded. The modern tower defense games will actually give you the gold like as you kill the enemies. Very similar to like Dota. The Dota actually has the MOBAs have a lot in common with tower defense, where you're killing these automatic enemies, in PvE to get gold and get experience and level up your character in the MOBA. There are towers and lanes in the MOBA, even though it's not strictly tower defense. Some of that loop is there of like killing enemies, leveling up in real time, and spending those resources efficiently so that you clear the bar to better than your opponents did.
And it's definitely that loop that made tower defense, because that loop is so addictive. But tower defense without that loop is always solvable or trivial or broken. But the loop is what makes it interesting, the upgrade paths. Unfortunately, this also means tower defense was a genre that was ripe for some of the early gated microtransaction monetization models.
Yeah, there are some of that going on but not too many. The two games I just mentioned, it's like you could play those for free, I think, or cheap in like the regular app store. And then there are microtransactions in them for like cosmetics or for boosts of some kind. It's a single player game, so it's like you're not cheating anyone. But actually there are some multiplayer ones, but the thing is, I got them in Apple Arcade, and in Apple Arcade, they basically remove all the microtransactions, and you basically, like, for example, the new Kingdom Rush, you can get gems. It's like a currency, and use them to buy like consumable boosts to help you out with like a hard level. I beat the whole game on normal difficulty and got every star in every level without using any. I didn't spend a single gem, and I have thousands of gems.
Yeah,
it's like, okay. If I went to the harder difficulty levels, there might be levels that they've made so challenging that you must use some gems to beat them. It's possible. I don't know. And I probably won't play those difficulty levels and find out.
I feel like that upgrade loop shares a lot with games like Balatro and Slay the Spire. Especially if you semi-randomize the things that attack you and semi-randomize the upgrades that are available, that becomes just a very powerful addictive genre. I have played both Slay the Spire 1 and Balatro in the past 48 hours.
Yep, it's the same loop, right? Balatro, can your deck that you have beat this blind? Okay, you did. Here's some money to improve your deck. Can you clear the next bar? Right? It's the same exact loop. It's just you're playing a different game. The method in which you clear the bar is different. It's not laying out cards. It's laying out towers. So some things that tower defense games do to spice things up, right, is, obviously you want to maximize your DPS from your towers, right? That's the core mechanic. But tower positioning. Some games you actually construct, even actually in the original desktop tower defense,
you make the map and you try to make the longest possible path for the creeps.
You make the map with your towers themselves, right? But newer tower defenses, the map usually already exists, and the positioning of the towers. Is this tower better at the start of when the enemies first enter, or is it better as like a last resort right at the exit? Is this tower better to put somewhere where it needs long range or short range, or is it better to put here where it's like on the corner where it's going to hit enemies as they go around a whole path like a whole bunch of times, or is it better to put like on an edge where it doesn't need as much space because maybe it just doesn't even shoot, it just generates like some minions to come out and fight?
And that part of it, though, that is part of what I like. The upgrade loop I appreciate, even though I like it to a point, but also I feel when it traps me. Like it gets a hook. I am very resilient to those kinds of traps, and it fucking gets me, that loop. But base building is also really fun. Building a base and then watching people destroy themselves trying to get through your defenses.
Dungeon Keeper.
Yep, Dungeon Keeper. There have been a bunch of FPS tower defenses over the years and hybrid ones.
RTS games have often had tower defense kind of modes, right? But yeah, it's like you're trying to figure out like what is the most efficient setup in terms of how much can I do given these resources. And it's not always an obvious answer. Even if you figure out the general case, like, okay, this tower has the best DPS, given maps, different types of enemies that come in with different weaknesses and strengths, it's not, there isn't going to be one answer, and each map, each new thing is a new challenge. It's like, okay, this one has a lot of flying guys. I need towers that can hit flying enemies. This one has guys with magic resistance. My magic tower, which is the strongest, is now useless. I need to figure out a different tower to use. This one has fast guys. This one has zergs, lots of small weak guys. This one has one super strong guy with a shit ton of HP. I need to find out how to do enough damage to him before he gets to the end. And he regenerates health, and also he has this magic spell that destroys your towers. And also it's like you just keep mixing it up in so many different ways. So it's always a new puzzle to solve, even if you're not caught in the loop, even if you think you've mastered it. They give you so many towers to choose from, and sometimes they'll give you units to control and all kinds of
randomizing it to a degree, roguelike style, I think is really important because that lets, if you find something degenerate, you get to do it, you get to watch it be successful, you feel great about yourself, and it doesn't work again because the things are different in the next iteration, so you get that experience.
I actually haven't seen like a roguelike deck buildy tower.
Stan, how long can I hold out? Because then it's not going to go forever. It's not always getting better. The resource loop can go up and then it goes down, and then you get this thing that is rare in games like this, where you get to try out desperation strategies. Very few tower defense games put you in a desperate situation unless you just made really bad choices.
The thing I hate the most, right? Because we've said good things about tower defense games. The thing I hate the most in a tower defense game is when there's a map with like two paths, right? And so some enemies are going left and some are going right. And it's like, okay, I need to put enough towers on both paths. I can't just put all my towers at the choke point to get maximum efficiency. I need to allocate my resources to both paths in the correct amount to defend against waves on either side. It's when a map like that pressures you enough that you're forced, in order to win, to like sell towers to move back and forth. And like, of course, when you sell, you don't get all your money back, right? So you're basically, you have to get weaker in order to survive, because you need to allocate enough resources to one side that's about to get slaughtered.
See, I'd rather be having a way to build the structure separate from the towers I'm putting down in that situation.
Yeah, but regardless, I hate it when the right move is to sell, because selling, it's like psychologically, it's like to win, you must go down a level in your RPG character.
Right? Yeah, playing D&D as a kid, I was not afraid of my character dying, but level drain, I was like legitimately terrified of.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like, okay, you can't just move towers freely. You have to sell and buy a different one. And when you do, your net total value is gone. And, but what I do like is when there's a challenge where it's like, okay, is it when they let you upgrade towers, right? Especially like different upgrade paths and options. And then it's like, okay, is the correct strategy for this map to build a lot of towers cheaply, or a few towers leveled up all the way, right? And it's like, you got to calculate, like, okay, is 10 guys that do 10 DPS or one guy that does 1,000? It's like, I don't know.
Yep. I don't like that level of micro-tuning. I like it to feel more like I'm making broader strategic decisions, like reinforce the north because that is where the barbarians keep coming down.
Right, but I'm saying, like, if guys are coming fast, then you want more, right? Because if you have one that does a lot of damage, it's like the fast guys will run past it in 2 seconds, and now you got nothing.
Yep.
Whereas if it's a slow guy who's going to right, then it's like you want one tower doing a lot of damage because it'll just keep hammering that guy enough. And if you have a bunch of small ones, none of them are going to do enough to make a dent.
But a place that I think tower defense is really powerful is if you extract it from the resource loop, that, like we mentioned in the beginning, when a game that is about something else has like the tower defense mission, is almost always really fun. Like Half-Life 2 has that tower defense where you got the little turrets and the drones come in. Deus Ex has a couple of scenes where, like, all right, activate the elevator. Now you got to fucking hold out here for 5 minutes before the elevator gets there. Don't die.
Yep. Most RTSs are going to be too fast, but
Yep.
it's like you could theoretically, I can Command and Conquer, build like walls and turrets and force enemies to like go through. It would never happen, right?
Yeah.
But
Well,
'cause
it would
it's too
happen in a
slow.
contrived way. Actually, me and a friend in high school, what we would do, we would play Command and Conquer online with modems dialed into each other.
Yeah, we did that too. You'd be like, no shoots for no
Yeah.
shooting.
So we'd
Yeah.
one game we'd play is one of us would make a base, and the other one would build an army. And then at the appointed time, the army attacks the base, and we just would see what happens.
There have been some few attempts, I think, at tower defense tabletop games.
I've
but
never seen one that caught my attention or that anyone had
I never played one, and I never saw any of them as like a big hit, even though there's like no reason it shouldn't work, right?
I think it could work really well. You know what? If any of you out there, if you are aware of a tower defense tabletop game that you think is good, let us know, because I've never encountered one that anyone's...
I searched for tower defense on Board Game Geek. So this is only games that have tower defense in their name, right? Not games that have it as a genre, which there are probably more. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 of them. None of them look any good. Only 2 of them have ranks. And the one with the highest rank is 9,487. It's Mage Tower, a tower defense card game. And it looks like a card game with some dice.
So the most out there tower defense I ever played was at a convention, I don't know if it's still around, called Michicon. When I was young, this was middle school. It was a gaming convention, and they had D&D there. And one of the D&D events was a tournament, a Dungeons and Dragons tournament. It was a tower defense tournament. You'd come with your character, you'd get put in groups of 4, and you have to defend the orb from monsters that are coming to get it. And then they scored everyone's like team based on who defended the orb the best, and it was a whole thing. And it was actually not that fun and very poorly put together, but the concept was solid. Actually, I could make a pretty good Burning Wheel scenario, a tower defense Burning Wheel game.
Yeah,
Defend the tower.
Okay, so I did go to Board Game Geek and go to the category of tower defense. The top ranked game is 193, which is pretty high.
That's really high.
Legendary Encounters, an alien deck building game. So it has the theme of like, alien. Yeah. Like, Sigourney Weaver alien.
Yeah.
And then there's Cloudspire at 345, which actually looks like a tower defense game on a hex map. And then there's Keep the Heroes Out at rank 422, which looks like a cute fantasy tower defense game, kind of dungeon crawly bit, kind of. So I don't know about any of those games are any good, but they exist.
Yeah. If you think of no one that's good, let us know. All right, I'll just stop there.
The wooden pieces in the Keep the Heroes Out, they got some cute slimes with eyeballs.
Ooh.
And some